Hey guys, welcome to episode 19 of the weekly update, the series where I talk about the paddles that I hit throughout the week. Now, this is going to be the last video I shoot before I head off to Asia for the 60 factory tour, so we're going to be doing some quick first impressions of paddles that I got to hit throughout the week. So the paddles we're going to be covering are going to be the Bread and Butter Wild Thing, which hasn't been released yet, but we'll do some early impressions. The Dynasty Franklin C45, so this is their elongated shape. I hit the 14 and 16 millimeter options of this. The Honolulu Pickleball Company Sword and Shield J2 NFL. So this is their foam series, and this is going to be the one that's featuring fiberglass. And as a comparison against that, I also hit it against their J2H Plus, which is their fiberglass Gen 3. And the last one is going to be the Aura Pro from this brand called, I believe it's Srikel, but this is another foam paddle. And I thought it'd be a fun comparison since it does have a similar shape to the J2, and just want to do some foam paddle comparisons. But anyways, let's get into it. Starting off, let's talk about the Bread and Butter Wild Thing. This is an elongated Gen 2 paddle that's the same mold as the Bread and Butter Shogun, but it utilizes different surface layers. I believe it uses a softer 3K carbon fiber layer at the top, a middle T700 carbon fiber layer, and finally, a layer of fiberglass at the bottom for extra firepower. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because the paddle is supposed to be like an elongated version of the Bread and Butter Invader, which also has different surface layers. The difference is that the Invader uses a polyester surface at the top compared to the 3K carbon fiber the Wild Thing uses. Bread and Butter chose to go with the 3K over the PET because it would hold graphics better for the surface. Now, in my few sessions with the Wild Thing, I don't think the 3K is a one-to-one replacement for the polyester. Yes, it is softer than typical T700, but I didn't find it as plush feeling as PET. However, I've only used the Wild Thing briefly, while the Invader I have has seen much more use, so the surface has slightly softened up more on my Invader. For my initial impression of the Wild Thing, I found it to be stiff feeling with a smaller sweet spot compared to the Shogun. This is mainly due to the paddle coming pretty light out of the box, similar to what we saw on the Bread and Butter Psycho. At least with these two prototype models I have, it seems that Bread and Butter is joining in on that trend where they are releasing paddles that come out lighter out of the box, which leaves more room for customization. I ended up using half gram per inch of Pickleball Effects tungsten tape from the 9 and 3 positions of the paddle down to the throat, as well as some of his tuning tape at the top two corners. I found this to bump up the stability and really open up the sweet spot more. Also, the added weight combined with additional playtime, I found to soften up the face layers a bit. Though right now, I still don't think it has a face as soft as the Invader, and I don't think you can feel the different surface layers as much compared to something like a Chorus Shapeshifter. But I also felt this way about the Invader when I first got it, so my thoughts may change over time. Overall, I would describe the Wild Thing as a Shogun with just a bit more offensive firepower in both power and pop, but it is a paddle that I highly recommend adding extra perimeter weighting to. I didn't get a chance to run the swing weight and twist weight numbers on my graffiti before I left on my trip, but I'll get on that as soon as I'm back in the country. Next, let's talk about the new foam Sword and Shield J2 NF paddles from the Honolulu Pickleball Company. Ever since the release of their popular J2K paddle, Honolulu has been iterating on this unique shape with different construction and surface layers with recent releases like the J2TI, the J2KC, and the J2K Plus. Now, with the J2 NF series, they've gone into the Gen 4 space and created a full foam option. This has been a pretty popular paddle recently with a lot of the reviewers giving it very high praise, and I can see why. It takes the popular J2 shape, gives it a new foam core, and also increases the overall firepower compared to previous models. Their last power paddle, the J2 Plus series, I wasn't the biggest fan of because the overall firepower was unpredictable for each paddle because it depended on how much the paddles were breaking in, and this led to durability concerns with them, where they had to implement the refresh program. With the new foam paddles, I've mainly hit the J2 NFL side by side with the J2H Plus. The H Plus was stiffer feeling with less dwell time, but the NFL had a bit more overall firepower. For the feel of the NF series, I'd actually compare it more to the Carbon True Foams. They don't have as much of the softer foam feel you see in the True Foams, but you do get more power. I did find the NF paddles to soften up a bit after some use, and once that happened, the paddle feel had more foam-like characteristics with the feel of the face. The NF didn't get to the level of the True Foams where I could shape the ball better, but I did appreciate the stiffer feel of the face personally. In terms of firepower, I'd say it's just underneath the 11624 Vapor Power. It's one of the first foam paddles to get close to the power category, which is pretty interesting. Many of you know I'm not a fan of the J2 shape, and I do think it's overrated, but if I had to pick one of the J2 lineup to play with, it would be the J2 NFL. I briefly hit the Kevlar version, which I found to be softer, but I'll look to spend more time comparing that against the other surfaces in a future video. Now, I actually misspoke earlier, but the Aura Pro I hit before I left isn't the foam paddle from Srikel. That's actually their Durafoam series, which arrived when I had already left. The Aura Pro is their $99 Gen 3 paddle. I didn't hit this much, but for initial impressions, this is one of the few Gen 3 paddle clones I've hit that is hot out of the box. Something like the Friday Fever takes a while to get more power, but the Aura Pro I found to be a loud paddle that hits hard the second you pick it up. Right now, I would compare it to the power levels of the 11624 Powers with a bit more plush feel off the face, but I do need to spend more time to do more comparisons, durability testing, and get more overall impressions. But right now, $99 for a Gen 3 that hits hard out of the box is a very good deal. I've been told that it's still awaiting USAP approval, so we'll see if it actually passes when that time comes. Lastly, let's talk about the Franklin C45 Dynasty, which is just a C45 in the elongated shape. Now, I didn't have too much to say about the tempo version of the C45 when I did a first look on that, and that's basically how I feel about the Dynasty as well. It's basically an elongated C45 that now also has a 16mm option. Similar with the tempo, I do think the 14mm option is still better than the 16. I find the thicker cord to be a bit too dwelly and plush, and the 14 provides more needed firepower. It's still a super light paddle overall and does need perimeter weighting added to bring out its full potential, but overall it's what you would expect when making the C45 elongated. Personally, I do enjoy this the best out of all the C45 options. I do tend to gravitate towards elongated paddles anyways, so I liked how compared to the hybrid, it has a higher sweet spot, more overall power and reach. The original hybrid C45s were popular for a reason. Many people enjoyed the customization and the feel off the face. So if you were someone who wanted this in the elongated shape, then I would recommend the 14mm Dynasty. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode of the Weekly Update. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And as always, if you want to support this channel, I've added my discount codes and links in the description below if you do want to pick up any of these paddles.
All good.